Hello, guys and girls. I'm very inclusive. Welcome back. Today, I'm here with my boy Hervey and Daniel once again.
Yep.
Hi.
And yes, we're back, man. We're back. We're consistent with this. You know what I'm saying? We're giving you guys weekly quality content. But, not even but. So, today, we'll be discussing a statement which I feel might be controversial, depending on if everyone doesn't agree with each other's opinion on this. But what is our biggest movie disappointment? Who wants to start? Who wants to kick this off?
I can take it away. I can take it away.
Okay.
So I thought about this quite a bit actually. And to be honest, I've not had too many movie disappointments just because I never really go in there with like too many high expectations. But my biggest one, and this actually came last year, was Ant-Man 3, the Quantumania movie. And the reason for that, so of course, as you know, Marvel's been in a bit of a disarray, we could say, over the past couple of years. And everything since Endgame has been very hit and miss with the audience. And I'm sort of what's known as a Marvel chill, where I will watch everything, I will back Marvel, I will try to give it as much grace as possible. And after all the sort of kind of like, up and down movies that come before, they really promised us something big with Ant-Man Quantumania. They were introducing the big threat, which was Kang, which was going to be the multiverse villain that was going to be an antagonist over several movies. Of course, they hired Jonathan Majors, who's since been fired for various reasons, and he's obviously phenomenal actor. He was very good in a lot of the movies that he was in last year as well. But I really went into that movie hoping for it to kind of recapture that spark that the MCU had, have all the elements that made Marvel magic. The the wider storytelling in terms of introducing a big bad that's going to have ramifications across multiple different movies, affecting multiple different heroes. I've been one of those people that have actually enjoyed the Ant-Man movies previously as well. I've enjoyed Ant-Man 1, Ant-Man 2 as well. So was looking for this to make that step up as well. And I think that the director and the writer of it were talking about making this a Avengers level type of movie as well. So I went in there with like huge expectations. And as you all know, the movie kind of fell flat amongst audiences. I think they did a lot wrong in terms of the direction that they took the story in, the direction that they took Kang in. I think they gave him a very bad second introduction because we were introduced to him firstly through Loki. I mean, everything that Jonathan Majors did as Kang was brilliant, was menacing, but the wider storytelling and the direction that they took the character in the movie was very underwhelming. The whole movie was underwhelming. It really lacked a lot of character development, a lot of a lot of I don't know. It was just like overly goofy when it didn't
And
need to be, in my opinion. And yeah, it just kind of, I think that probably solidified to me that Marvel maybe isn't in the right state and it might not come back for a while. So that was my biggest
I,
disappointment.
sorry about that. I actually agree. And just to add to that, I think where Marvel went wrong with this film is they took it to a place that it didn't need to go. And what I mean by that, because Daniel has mentioned this quite a few times as well, is that Ant-Man is known to be is known to be a small movie. Do you know what I'm saying? With a small budget. Like, and also what I've realized with Ant-Man as well is like, even though it's a part of Marvel, it seems like its own separate entity, as in as way, like Daniel says, it's a thing where Ant-Man is known to be a small movie. But this film, you know what I'm saying? This film completely went opposite to what it's known for. Its actual, like, its culture. Do you know what I'm saying? It was
Yeah.
something. It felt like a big Avengers movie,
Yeah,
and it was like,
it's for
okay,
that part as well that I would say, some of the heart that the side characters had. I think his name was like Pedro or something like that, and like Ti's character and stuff like that. Because obviously they weren't really in the movie as well, and they were like a big part of like Ant-Man 1 and Ant-Man 2, which made it very likable as well, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
sorry, I cut you off there.
No worries, no worries. Exactly. And it's like, okay, so we have to remember Ant-Man is a small character, and you lot are giving him such a big fill. How are you gonna fill that? Because it's gonna be such a void where it's like, okay, you're gonna have to fill this big void filled with Ant-Man. And Ant-Man doesn't really do much. And there's not really much. Like there are places that you can take with his story. Yeah, cool. But his character has limitations, and in many respects, like his power, for example.
Mhm.
And do you know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, so and you're putting him against someone who people say is the antagonist of all antagonists in freaking Marvel history, Kang. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like not only have most of us haven't even seen Loki. So a lot of us are being introduced to him. Like me, I'm just being introduced to Kang. I heard about him in Loki, but I had to do like research on my own. And a lot of people aren't doing that. So like if you're introducing people, this is the first time people are actually going to see Kang. And if they're being introduced as him as a villain, be losing to Ant-Man is like, whoa, you have already set off like the new phase of Marvel on a bad tone. Do you know what I'm saying? So yeah, I just think they made this film bigger than it had to be. It didn't have to be that big.
Yeah, and it just highlighted a lot of like the issues that Marvel's been in at the moment, where you're hiring a lot of these like inexperienced writers that haven't had sort of much experience writing sort of big feature films, and you're trying to get them to do this like really grand movie, and you could just see throughout that the writing throughout is like poor, like they, and not to say that the sort of that the writers did like a terrible job, but like you have to have someone with some level of experience of writing sort of a full feature length movie first before trying to do this like grand sort of Avengers level sort of movie for an Ant-Man character as well, and sort of for introducing who was meant. I feel like my biggest disappointment was just the way that they handled Kang in that movie, because
100%.
yeah, because I'm a person that loves the villain. I mean, I love the bad guy. I loved Thanos, and the potential that Kang had, with Jonathan Majors as the actor, I was all on board. But then they just chose to take it in a very stupid direction. They decided to have him be defeated by a bunch of ants in one part of the movie, and for him to be killed off by Ant-Man and the Wasp. And it was just like, okay, like we can't take him seriously.
But to be fair with Marvel, oh sorry, Daniel. Sorry.
Is the disappointment more about it being a bad Ant-Man movie, or it being kind of the first sign that the MCU was struggling?
I think it was the first time that the MCU was struggling, because again, my expectation going into it was, a lot of the stories that we had before were, very sort of self-isolated stories, things like Eternal, things like Shang-Chi and stuff like that. And again, a lot of what I enjoyed about the Marvel sort of movies was how connected it was to sort of the rest of the universe and things like that. So I thought we would get something like that, especially with the character being introduced in Loki first and foremost, and him having potential impact on future movies. It just wasn't there for me, and again it was like to do with the writing as well, and it was just like Marvel's kind of lost what made it great.
But to be fair to Marvel, I see, just kind of going back to Kang, I see what they were kind of trying to do with him, right? They were trying to do this whole unravelment, because obviously the post-credit scene, we see a million Kangs. So that tells us, okay, so we're going to go through a journey where we're going to discover the strongest Kang, which is good if you're starting off the phase already on a good run prior to that phase. Already Marvel are in a very bad, in a bad state where people are saying, yo, this Marvel movies are whack. So we don't have the patience to wait for that journey to unravel. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's the issue. It could have worked, but it could have worked with a different character. And, if Marvel prior to this film were creating good movies. So yeah, man, it's a good point. It's smart, and I actually agree with I don't think it was the biggest movie disappointment, but I do agree it's definitely one of the biggest.
Probably not, but again, it was just like more of a personal one in terms of loving Marvel so much and wanting it to be great. And I think again that was a point where I realized, okay, something seriously wrong here. And then they followed that up with a fantastic movie, Guardians of the Galaxy. So,
true. But that was already where that was James Gunn. He left, so it's like, oh, wait, what film came after that? From Marvel, was
it the Marvels after that?
The Marvels.
Oh yeah, so then they went back to. Oh man, I felt sorry for. Damn man, yeah, they went back to zero again after that. It was crazy. shout out to those actresses though. It wasn't their fault. It was just, the script that they received. It just was
Just
not
bad
good.
writing. Yeah, it just bad. But that's mine. Daniel?
So from like 2016 to about now, there's been a lot of like pop culture disappointments. You've got your Game of Thrones, you've got your Star Trek, that sort of thing. But if we're limiting it to movies, then for me it's got to be Star Wars. Just the degree of mismanagement that this company has shown with that IP, that you would think you can't really screw up, and they really started from such a high bar of audience. Yep.
So just to specify, are we talking about one particular Star Wars film, or are we talking about like the whole franchise?
The general handling of the franchise, and I'll get to the movie, which that was the specific disappointment for me. But I'm just saying they started off basically with infinite goodwill, lots of excitement, a $2 billion box office for The Force Awakens, and then you get The Last Jedi. Now, some people really like The Last Jedi. I think it's the one, like it's a fundamentally misguided movie, but that is the one where I really got this feeling of they're doing what they want to do, right? That it's not just a misstep. It's not like they tried to do something great. They actually think they succeeded, and that is the point at which I kind of got the feeling that there is no course correction coming from this. And then everything that came after that has kind of been an uncoordinated mess. And now there's talk of another Rey movie that basically doubles down on the parts that were not widely popular. And in any normal circumstance, at some point when you basically lose $3 billion, when you leave $3 billion on the table just in the box office for your main movie line, any normal company would course correct, right? Or at least have an introspective moment. And that still hasn't happened. What is it, 6 years later? And so that was really the part where like The Last Jedi was really the point where I began to realize, okay, we're not getting any good Star Wars for the next decade, are we? And so far, that's pretty much been confirmed. And I think for the reason I picked, like I could list other movies where I was disappointed or where I thought they had much more potential than they ended up delivering. But the Disney Star Wars started from such a high level of enthusiasm and goodwill, and let's just make some fun stories and have a good time and kind of spend some time in this universe, and then it fell off such a steep cliff, and it hasn't come back to the surface since then. And I really want to know what the internal discussions are surrounding that. I bet like in 20 years there will be this massive tell-all book of somebody who was in the room for all of it. But I think like it's not just movies. Not some people don't like it. There's something that's going on.
Sorry, can I have a quick question? I was going to ask, that's a good point you made. Do you think it was business decisions made by business people that overshadowed the kind of downfall of Star Wars rather than the creatives pretty much? Because we already remember when Disney, I don't fully remember what the article was saying, but it said how now the creative control is going to take over, because obviously a lot of decisions made by Disney were all business-minded people. So yeah, do you think part of the reason why Star Wars is where it is because pretty much the creatives weren't in control anymore?
So a lot of people will say that Disney ruined Star Wars because of corporate greed or because they're money grabbing or it's a cash grab. Leaving billions on the table in order to by committing to an unpopular creative path is not profit maximizing behavior, right? This is not greed, right? They will in 20 years they will not sell Maz Kanata lunchboxes, right? The way they've been selling Yoda lunchboxes for 50 years, right? The amount of money they've left on the table is staggering, and that is really the part that is inexplicable to me. I would understand it if they basically just ran the franchise into the ground by trying to milk it for as much money as possible, as quickly as possible, or something like that. I would at least understand the motive, but that is not what's happening. Like they've lost in terms of opportunity cost. an unbelievable amount of money. And that is really the baffling thing, that despite that, there hasn't been a course correction.
I feel as well like what you were saying earlier about kind of the mismanagement of it is also compounded by the amount of movies that have been kind of announced but then absolutely canned. So obviously you had Taika Waititi, who was meant to make a Star Wars movie. You had Kevin Feige, who was meant to make one. There's been you had the writers of Game of Thrones, who were also meant to make a whole new Star Wars trilogy as well. So you've had a lot of people come in with ideas, and for one reason or the other, something is getting in the way of the creator being able to tell stories in the Star Wars universe, which is, again, like you said, led to billions being left on the table. Because when was the last time that we got a Star Wars movie? I think it was Rise of the Skywalker, which was 2019, and we're in 2024 now. And for such a big franchise to have nothing out in that period of time is very worrying on their part.
I mean, they certainly aren't doing themselves any favors by announcing movies as market research, because that's what that is, right? They announce movies and then see what the reaction is, and then cancel the ones that get a bad reaction, or just don't talk about them anymore. And that certainly makes it look like they're even like the conditions under which this IP is being managed is even more chaotic than just it appears on the surface.
So what are we saying? They should get some more cojones and just drop an idea that they have faith in.
I don't know. I mean, so
because remember, we did speak about this last time as well,
right? So, so for me, my expectations for Star Wars are basically somewhere around zero. Like they're as far down as they can possibly be. Every once in a while, something good comes out, like Andor or the Fallen Order games. Those somehow were pretty good, and those seem to me like those are like good Star Wars is when something's being made where nobody's paying attention, right? And I don't have any confidence there can ever be a good Star Wars movie again, because too much attention would ride on it, so that there would be too much scrutiny, there would be too much meddling, and there would be too much infighting over in which direction to take and who gets to call the shots and so on. And so I've basically written off movie Star Wars and Disney Plus Star Wars completely, and maybe every once in a while, somebody will be able to sneak something through, like an Andor or a Jedi Fallen Order or something like that.
How much of it do you think it's to do with the fan base and the extreme reactions they have to what Disney are putting out in the Star Wars universe? And also, you can also see as well, a lot of people talk about making stories in an era which isn't the Skywalker era in Star Wars as well. But from what's been shown is that anything made in that period of time, so things like Obi-Wan on Disney Plus, is receiving higher viewership. And you can say Andor is within the same time period as well, but Obi-Wan is a popular character that people have loved from the original trilogy as well, whereas like Andor was introduced into Rogue One, which I can't remember if it got like a mixed reaction or not. Rogue One, I personally loved Rogue One. I thought, that's one of the best Star Wars movies and that has been made. But, something like the Andor series doesn't get as much viewership as Obi-Wan. So there's really kind of two questions in there. Is it, how much is it to do with the kind of toxic, if you can say, fan base of the Star Wars community, and how much of it is people saying they want different, but in reality, when they're presented with different, they actually, don't go and view it and support it.
So when you look at something like Star Wars or Star Trek or something like that has been around for a long time, every time somebody tries something new, there's outcry and people are convinced that it's been ruined. Every Star Wars, I think people have been saying this about Star Wars since Empire Strikes Back. But the difference is that the good stuff eventually wins people over. For example, in Star Trek, they've overhauled the Klingons twice, right? You've got the original series Klingons that were basically space Soviets, and then in the Next Generation they were space Vikings. And back then, I was back then too young to actually see this live, but according to people who were there, everybody hated the new Klingons of TNG, and then eventually most people came along, and now they're the iconic image of the Klingons. And then when Discovery came out a couple of years ago, they changed them again. And there were similar comments, you've ruined the Klingons, these aren't real Klingons, and so on. But then people went one over. Most people stayed at their initial impression of this is not working. And I think Star Wars is in a similar place where if it was just a knee-jerk reaction, then eventually that reaction would go away and people would see the merits and would see the enjoyment in it. And that so far has not happened with the sequel trilogy. Like Force Awakens was 10 years ago. I think it was 2014. And after 10 years is plenty of time to reconsider and reevaluate. And even in hindsight, there just isn't anything redeemable about that. There just haven't been any spin-offs, or nothing has moved forward. There's no equivalent to the Clone Wars series that has picked out the good bits and built something better on top of it. That just hasn't happened. And I think that is exactly why people are kind of circling the same 5-year period on Tatooine with things like Obi-Wan, where they are terrified of trying anything new because they don't think it will succeed, and therefore they're driving the whole thing to the ground until people are sick of it. And I think many people are already at that point.
Okay.
And it's kind of a paradox. If you try something new, people will hate you for it. If you don't try anything new, people will hate you for it. But they've kind of maneuvered themselves into this dead end by themselves. It didn't have to be this way. And that is really disappointment, that none of this was forced, or none of this was inevitable. If these were good stories and good characters, then most people would have been won over by this point.
The sad day for Star Wars, man.
I'm not even that big of a Star Wars fan, but it's just absolutely mind-boggling. The like, if you go back to 2014, just how people talked about it back then. Like, most people recognized that The Force Awakens was not that great of a movie, but they recognized the potential in it and what else could come. And that was right just before we turned around the corner and saw the cliff drop off. And if you fast forward just 2 years after The Last Jedi, the tone has changed completely, because that's where people realized, oh no, there isn't actually anything coming. And it's only downhill from here.
Just to add a little caveat, I personally like The Last Jedi, but I won't say that too loud.
we can talk about that one day. I'm sure we'll have an interesting conversation.
That might have to be a new prompt, guy. Cool.
Okay, Jonathan, would you like to top that?
I don't know if this is gonna top it, but I do think this film could have been the boost that DC needed. Black Adam. Guys, I believe that this film was just badly managed, man. Like, this film had so much potential. Like, they had an IP that could have boosted DC's popularity, sales, and I don't want to say this statement because it might be far-fetched, but if they did this film right, it could have potentially made DC be on the same recognition level as Marvel. Maybe not as much, obviously not make as much money, but definitely be on the same recollect as them. Because if we could have had a Superman versus Black Adam, even the way that it ended, right, where post-credit they showed Batman, face to face with Superman, they could have took it to that route. But no one was really interested for that film to get to that route the way that Black Adam was exported to us. It just wasn't good, man. It really wasn't good, and I was so disappointed. Especially, I was thinking, okay, so Marvel have Black Panther and DC have Black Adam, even though Black Adam wasn't. Wait, is The Rock black? I think he's black. His ethnicity is a bit ambiguous to me.
Samoan.
I think the character isn't. I mean, The Rock is he Samoan? I'm not sure.
The character doesn't look black. I've seen the comics, so I have seen what he kind of looks like in. I think he even showed me like an animation video where it was Superman versus Black Adam. So I have seen obviously what he looks like in those animations, and he's ethnically ambiguous. Let's just say that. So I thought he was going to be, even though it's Black Adam, would have made sense for him to be black. Shout out Black Adam. But I would have thought he was going to be like, I'm saying, the Marvel's Black Panther. Do you know what I'm saying? So I thought, okay, cool. No, and where was I'm saying, okay, cool. So they've got Black Adam, and Black Adam's like freaking. Obviously, everyone first thought to mind when you think of Black Adam is Superman. So I was like, all right, cool. this movie is looking. Even like the marketing for this film got me hyped. You guys always tell me never believe or listen to trailers, and I will always object. I'm sorry. I'm a trailer guy. So when I saw this trailer, I was hyped. And then when I saw the movie, I was pissed. It is what it is, man. Black Adam should have been bigger than it was, but it just it just wasn't it. It just wasn't it. Even even the fight scene, which I thought could have potentially saved the movie, even though it already created such a big hill of disappointment, the fight scene was disappointing in itself, man. That was like 3 minutes of Black Adam getting his ass whooped. I think it ended with him giving, I think it was like a one punch thing where, he ended up winning, but still it was bad, man. Like it just wasn't as culturally impactful, and it wasn't as culturally impactful as I thought the film was going to be. And it just, the movie just in general, like the writing wasn't too bad, but the film, there was nothing about the film that, that was convincing enough for us to believe that this film was, the film that was going to be the boost that DC needed. And I was disappointed. I thought it was going to be that. I thought it could have been the start of something great for DC, but they just mucked that all up.
So, this is the very first movie I walked out the theater. I walked out the cinema. I was like, this is, to quote the Vox meme, this is the biggest piece of dog shit I've seen. It was so bad. Like that, I did not enjoy that movie one bit. I think like you mentioned, like the action in it was still, like, it wasn't even redeemed by any of the action in the movie. The writing of it, I felt, was poor. Like, Black Adam as a character was extremely stale for me as well. It was just like so like one tone. It was just like, he was just like so boring. And I went in there with no expectations. I didn't think it was going to, like, redefine the sort of DC EU, like sort of The Rock was claiming it was going to be, in this any other. But that was a horrible movie. So I feel bad for you that you had expectations for that. But that was, yeah.
Yeah,
I wasn't. Sorry, Daniel, go ahead.
I was just saying, I'm surprised to hear that you had such high expectations. I mean, you're not a comic book reader, right? So it's not like you've been reading Black Adam comics all your life and finally there's a Black Adam movie, right? So was it just based on the trailer that you thought this was going to have this massive impact?
It was based on what the trailer revealed to me about his character. Because the first thing when I saw Black Adam, the first thing you will think is Superman. Do you get what I'm saying? So when the first thing that you think of is Superman, it's like, okay. And obviously, like I said, the comparisons with the whole Black Panther. So I'm like, okay, this is something which I see, the Black community being, head over heels for. Same way. No, that's what I thought previously to actually watching the film. Because it's the same with the whole Black Panther. One of the biggest reasons, not one of the biggest reasons, but one of the reasons why Black Panther was so popular was amongst the Black community. Because it's like, okay, it's our first Black action hero. You get what I'm saying? I thought, okay, maybe DC were going to... Sorry?
If you ignore Blade.
Shout out Blade, but Blade's R-rated, so that's a bit different. Obviously, the kids couldn't really see Blade. So shout out, Blade is amazing. I'm actually excited for that. I'm not really a big game I want to be, but there's a new Blade game. I don't know if I think it's PS5 as well, but it should be accessible for all consoles. But yeah, the Blade game, there was a trailer that looked really good. And also the movie, which has been postponed for years now. I'm excited to see that come out. But yeah, so I thought DC were going to do that, as in, like, I thought Black Adam was going to be that guy for DC, same way as Black Panther was going to be, that kind of like, that cement that stands for.
I don't know how you thought that, because like the Black community, like, don't get behind The Rock like that. To be honest, obviously he's been in like so many different movies, and yeah, he's like likable and stuff like that. But I don't feel like he has that massive support and appeal, because I don't really feel like he is probably seen as one of our own.
I hear what you're saying, but I mean more of the character, and I get it. Like, I don't think, same way we did like Chadwick, 100%. We like Chadwick, but I think it wasn't him as an actor who, like, what gravitated. Yeah, of course, like him as a person did make us gravitate to him as well, but not as much as the character itself, because it was Black Panther was originated from Africa, so everyone's like, oh, African superhero. Yeah, do you know what I'm saying? So Black Panther was like, okay, no, Black Adam was like, okay, like, wait, where was Black Adam from again?
Ancient Egypt? I don't really know, but Ancient Egypt, maybe?
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Damn.
he wasn't. Yeah, he wasn't really.
It's not
Okay.
a character in that sense.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I might have to revert back, but still, you know what I'm saying? I
The
personally,
trailer made you think along those lines.
yes, but still, as I said, with Black Adam, first thing you think of is Superman. And obviously, we saw his power in the trailer. And yes, it's The Rock. So it's like, okay, Henry Cavill versus The Rock, Black Adam versus Superman. You could take this, you could do what you wanted to do with Batman versus Superman. Do you get what I'm saying? It could have had, because everyone had big expectations for Batman and Superman, but it ended up being a flop. Even though the box office sales doesn't reflect that, still, in the eyes of many, they just didn't like the film. So I said, okay, you have another shot. You could take this. You could do something with Black Adam versus Superman. Do you get what I'm saying? Because, like I said, you've got Henry Cavill and you've got The Rock. You can take this. But unfortunately, it went. So, yeah. But yeah, that's the reason why I thought this film was gonna. Yeah, that's the reason why I thought this film could have had potential to boost DC's image. Because, like I said, first thing you think of when you think of Black Adam and Superman, and you have The Rock, which many people like, and you have Henry Cavill, which many people like, and it just seems like it's going to be a powerhouse type of film.
The only good thing that this film did was officially kill the DCEU and help steer them towards bringing James Gunn in. That's the only good thing that the movie did.
That's actually I don't think many can argue with that, because ever since that film dropped, what has their box office sales been like? It hasn't really been good. What movies have they dropped since then?
I think actually Aquaman 2 is the first one. It's no, but they have not had a good time.
Yeah.
I like the Suicide Squad quite a bit, the James Gunn version.
Yeah.
But all the others have been lackluster too terrible.
Yeah. But yeah, guys, that's my biggest disappointment. Unfortunately, I did not know the black community wasn't fond of The Rock.
I don't feel like we're not fond of him. I don't feel like we're not, but I wouldn't see us going and giving him like the box office push. Like, he's been in many other movies, and I don't sort of hear a lot of black people be like, "Oh, The Rock's in this movie. We need to go watch like Jumanji or something like that." I don't.
Okay. I hear that.
Chadwick, we didn't know him before Black Panther, but you know, after that movie, it was like, "Oh, what movie is Chadwick Boseman in?" And you know, you go see him.
Yeah. I hear that. Okay.
Cool.
Guys, I think that's it. Unless anyone wants to add anything else, but yeah, I think we all agree with our biggest disappointments. I thought it was going to be very controversial. I thought people were going to disagree, and but it looks like we pretty much agree. We haven't agreed to disagree today, so it's good. It's been a good conversation.
I mean, of course, for the people watching, let us know your biggest disappointments in the comments as well. Any movies, and if you disagree with our opinions on the movies as well, feel free to let us know in the comment section as well.
And let us know also, out of our movies, which one do you think was the biggest disappointment? Cool. Well, guys, thank you for coming. Dankeschön. Merci. Thank you.
Like, share, subscribe.
Yeah. Sorry, one more time.
Subscribe, comment, all that good stuff.
Thank you very much.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.